Thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon at the Design and Construct Using BIM-MEPAUS workshop. Very happy to see you all here today. So the premise around BIM is one that requires a process of collaboration, and the tools and solutions delivered through BIM-MEPAUS have been developed using the same methodology. It's all about that collaborative effort. So this workshop's going to be in exactly the same type of methodology or in the same vein this afternoon. We're really here to facilitate some open discussion. So this won't be like the other sessions we've done this morning, where you just get to sit back and listen. We're going to be asking you guys to participate and have a real collaborative discussion session here this afternoon. So that's the intent of this session. So to start with, before we do get into this open discussion around the room, the format or the agenda we'll follow is I'll just introduce a couple of the key people that will be standing up here so you know who we are. Then Brendan will provide a live demonstration just to give you an overview of where we have got to today with the various tools and solutions delivered through the BIM-MEPAUS initiative. Just for those of you here that may not be hands-on on some of the software tools or may not have caught up with where the initiative is up to today, I thought it'd be helpful for everyone just to get this quick overview picture of exactly what we've got on the table today to utilise. Then over to you guys for some discussion and some collaboration, as I said, and we'll really get some suggestions and ideas and prompters on where do we need to be headed, what's the journey in the future for us, which areas do we need to be focused on that we need to be paying attention to in development, what things are you wrestling with in the industry and in your business that we potentially, as a whole industry, collaboratively, we can start to work on delivering. And then after that, a quick closing ceremony. So we've only got 60 minutes, so we're going to ensure our live demonstration to begin with is only about 20 minutes, and then that leaves us the rest of our session together to all talk as a group. So some of the feedback we had last year when we illustrated what was available with the tools and solutions was that we want more time to be doing this question answer. So I hope this year we've improved on that with 40 minutes, and start thinking. So I've warned you, we're going to be asking for that collaboration, so start thinking of some questions and get ready to let it all out. So brief introduction myself, I'm Nathan Rubottom with A2K Technologies. Been with the company for about 10 years. Prior to that I was a structural steel draftsman, started out on the drafting board, went to 2D CAD, then went to 3D. So I've had a bit of experience there, and my role or function within BIM-MEPAUS has been one where I've been engaging with a lot of the product suppliers, helping them understand the opportunity in BIM and the real requirement out there for BIM content. So that's a bit of a passion I've had in the last recent 5-6 years. I'll be passing to Brendan Upton to provide the demonstration of where we're at with the tools and solutions for BIM-MEPAUS. Brendan's very experienced, very qualified to be doing this. He's a technical specialist within A2K Technologies, is responsible for working with a lot of our clients in implementing tools like Revit, advising on BIM processes and delivery and things like that. I'll then ask Christopher Diorio to join us. He's co-founder and CEO of EngWorks from Chicago. So he's travelled around halfway around the world to be here with us today. So thank you very much, Chris, to join us. So Christopher's also very qualified to be up here with us. He'll sort of act the role of a moderator or a facilitator within our 40-minute discussion. And Chris's business is a global company. They provide a lot of engineering services and BIM and collaboration services, as well as providing BIM content as well. So that'll be tremendously valuable to get the discussion going. So I'll now pass over to Brendan to give us an overview of where we are today with the initiative. Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you, Nathan. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So we're going to have a bit of a discussion about the template and the Revit side of things in the initiative, what we as A2K have been primarily involved in. Just close that. So I want to give a live demonstration of some of the newer features of the template and of the content, specifically around the shared parameters. So that's what I'll be mainly focusing on in this initial live demonstration of the session here. But for those of you that I'm sure there's in the room, there's people that are maybe a bit newer to the initiative and not quite sure what's actually in there in terms of the Revit side of things. So I'll just give a quick overview of the actual template and the content itself for the benefit of those. And then I want to just then really jump into some of this newer functionality with shared parameters and just show you a bit of a workflow coming from the BIM-MEPAUS specifications and the shared parameters and how that's now coming into the content in the Revit. So for those of you who are not aware of the what's involved in the BIM-MEPAUS Revit template and what's included, basically we have been involved in the initiative and have produced or helped to produce, along with obviously the collaboration of you, the users as well, the Revit template and also the Revit content. So I've got the website open here, and I'll come back to this again in a little while. To show you where you get the content that I'm really going to focus on. But basically, this is where users can come to log in and actually get the new releases of the template. So this is thinkbimmepauss.com.au. And if you come up here to the top, you'll see we've got tabs across the top. But if you see under where it says template, we've got download templates. And so this is where you can access the versions of the template. And so you can see there's a new version that we've just released in the past week, which we've already received some good feedback on. And so this is where you can come once you've got your subscription. You can log in here, and this is where you can access all the kit. Okay, and I'll just so that you're aware in terms of versioning. If you click into that template on the web page there, down the bottom you'll notice that once you're logged in, obviously, this is where you can actually select what version that you need. So yes, it is in 2014, but it is also available in 15 and 16. It's the same. It's the same template. The only difference, however, I will say that between the 14, 15 and the 16, which is what I'm going to go into in a bit more detail, is that the generic content that we've been working on, which is involving these industry foundation models, and that workflow is only in 2016, and that is because we are basing that generic content off the Autodesk country kit that has been released with the Australian country kit that has been released with Revit 2016, and that is something that we worked closely with, that the initiative worked closely with Autodesk to produce. And so it's that content that we're actually then producing at the industry foundation models and where that's going to stem from. So that's the reasoning there. We can talk a bit more about that when we open up the discussion a little later as well. So I'm sure people might have some questions on that, so we can go into a bit more detail around that. So this is where the template gets downloaded from. If I just go back one page there, you'll also notice. So we've got back issues of or back releases, past releases of the template there. But you'll also notice that we've got the shared parameter file that we released recently as well. So that's where you can download that from. Okay. We will be, and again we'll discuss this in more detail in a minute, but we will be looking to release a new version of the shared parameters quite shortly as well. There are more to come. So, and again, I'm sure people have got questions on that as well. But that's basically where you can get the template and the shared parameters from. And just while we're here as well, this is also as part of your subscription to the BIM-MEPAUS initiative, you get access to this content as well. So this is the manufacturer-specific content. Content like some of our manufacturers that are exhibiting here over the next few days. So you can see the range that we've got there. Okay, so this is where you can tap into those libraries and download that content. Okay, so for the benefit of those that have not been in there. Okay, so coming back from the website. Okay, so back into Revit. So just to give you a quick overview of what's in there. I'm sure many of you know, but I'm sure some don't. So basically, this is the Revit template. This is how it ships, I guess. And basically, it houses a whole kit of system families, duct types, pipe types, cable tray conduit, pre-set up, pre-defined with routing preferences, and the fittings that are being used in those routing preferences are built to the BIM-MEPAUS initiative standards. So they are constructible. They are constructible fittings. There's more, a few more to be developed, certainly on the duct side, but for that kit that's there in front of you there, all those routing preferences are using the certified BIM-MEPAUS fittings that are more flexible, more functional than what you get with the out-of-the-box Revit fittings, and so that's the big difference. So just be aware of that. Okay, so system families. We've also got on the annotation side, okay, so it's a kit of tags. So we've got tags and filters, view filters. We've got certain specific filters for things like insulation. We've got things like step-down frames in there. There's been a bit of work around those over the last year and a bit. And there's been a few evolutions of the way that's come through. There's a few options in there now, and I'm sure there's discussion around those fittings updating as well. And so that's basically how you get it. So that's an overview of the template. I don't want to, get into too much of the detail of what's in there, because what I really want to focus on is to show you in this technical bit here is this new functionality of the shared parameters working with the content. Okay, so what I want to quickly do is jump back out of Revit. This, as I'm sure many of you may be aware, is the BIM-MEPAUS specification for the adjustable pitch axial fan. There will be a specification for all the typical equipment that's used in a building services environment, and these specifications spell out a number of things. Obviously, best practice of how the content should be modelled, but also, more importantly, how it should be scheduled, what data should be in there. These specifications spell out those lists of schedules, what should be in there and what should be scheduled, what data should be held inside those families. It also spells out, if I just go, and this is where I want to focus on, okay, so I'll make that a little bit bigger. So this page is, if you're not familiar with this, I suggest you kind of read up, because this has been updated recently as well. And so this really gives a good description or understanding of where we're going with the generic content, so the industry foundation models, the IFMs, where they've come from, when they're being used, how the data's being scheduled, and then once it goes from a generic design, more of a generic design model, then it moves into a more manufacturer-specific model further on in the project life cycle. Okay, so basically what we've now done, so I'm going to demonstrate for you the way that the axial fan is working. We've set up the axial fan. So basically what we've done, as I said, we've taken the fan from the Autodesk country kit. So it's affiliated with the Autodesk content. We've taken that content and we've built into it, or we've placed into it the BIM-MEPAUS shared parameters. So if I just go to the last page of this document, you'll see here in this document there's things about the functional types of the content, best practice modelling, clearance zones, things like that, and I can show you that when we jump into Revit. But if I jump to the end of this document, you'll notice that there is a IFM schedule. Okay. So basically, the idea of this is, and this workflow has been obviously described before, but now we've got it in action, and so I'll take you through it and how this workflow could possibly work for you guys on projects. So the idea is that we have a more generic content that is not label free or brand free is probably a better phrase. That can be used and at the beginning of a project put into a concept, a project, or even as the as the design progresses, but still at the beginning of a project that can be used. That then and houses all of these parameters though. So these parameters are BIM-MEPAUS parameters. These are the parameters that have been defined as part of the BIM-MEPAUS spec that we've created. These are the industry recognised parameters, and it is what's going to enable you to build projects and to schedule them out in accordance with this standard. So the generic model will house a schedule like this, and then if we move on to the next page, then we've got an example of the MCM schedule, which is the manufacturer certified model, at which point in a project that content can be swapped out. So for example, this axial fan will then be replaced later on in the project, potentially when it goes to a contractor from the consultant's hands, can be then swapped out for this MCM manufacturer model with the more commissioning, manufacturer commissioning sign-off schedules and parameters in there. So I'll jump in. So basically what you'll find now on the website, for those of you that are not aware, inside where the content is, you'll notice that we have a section here called Industry Foundation Models now. If I just click on that, and then this is the, then we can jump out of the website and actually get into Revit. But basically, you'll see here now we've got this adjustable pitch axial fan. This is the first iteration of an Industry Foundation model. So this is what we're going to be looking at, basically. So what you would do if you were a user, you would come to the website. You can download the model from here. This will be basically a library of basically all of this generic content. So this is going to build up as we get more specifications for the content and as we build these Industry Foundation models. So this will be your point of contact to get the generic content. Once we jump into Revit, and I've got a couple of sessions open here because I've got a couple of examples. So I'll open up this first one. Okay, so basically when you download that IFM, there's basically an RFA file, but there's also an RTE file, a template file, which is what I've got open up here on the screen. And that actually houses not only the family, the fan itself, as you can see, but it's also got that IFM schedule pre-set up in this template so that you don't have to build it yourself, basically. There's a few steps, obviously, to get that schedule into your project, and I can show you a couple of ways of doing that, but basically you don't have to sit there and build these schedules. They basically will come with the content pre-built in. So if you have a look over in the project browser, we've got a few BMA schedules. You'll probably be familiar with some of them that have come from the template before, but you'll notice that we've got this IFM schedule here now. So basically that schedule is built in there, so you can bring it into your project. So I'll jump into, I've got an example here of the beginnings of maybe what's going to be a concept plan or an initial design model for a plant room. So these models have been kindly donated as an example. So I won't be able to go through all of these models, but be assured that the majority of the content in here, where applicable, is BIM-MEPAUS ductwork and this new IFM content. So basically, when you bring the fan in, well, let me show you one out here to the side quickly first. So you'll see that this is the IFM family here. The naming convention is as per what is in the specification document, so that's all there and explained, and where the naming convention comes from. And the types are in a type catalogue. I've loaded them all into this project. There's quite a few, but they're in a type catalogue, so you don't have to load all of those types in. You can, when you download the family from the site, you get the type catalogue along with it, so you can load into just your project just those types that you require. So yeah, quite a few there. Okay, so you'll notice if I scroll down into the properties of the element here. Okay, you'll notice that we've got, I'll just click this because Don't we love how Revit project windows fly all over the place? So, okay, you'll notice that under the data grouping is where you'll find all of these IFM parameters, these BIM-MEPAUS parameters, okay? We've kind of made a decision to group them under the one section there. This is in Revit 2016, by the way. And in Revit 2016, obviously we can reorder the ordering of the parameters, which is quite a handy thing as well, because now we can put this in the order as what they are in the spec. Okay, but yeah, you'll notice that they're all under the data grouping. We've made a conscious decision to do that, to keep them kind of grouped together, so that they're kind of easy to see. But then the schedule is then built basically off those parameters. So if I then see that family is in our model here, and then if I shoot over to the schedule, there's a bit of other content in there, but you can see that we've got these fans down the bottom here. Now, this is all generic, so this is all very rudimentary kind of values, but you can see that this is the schedule being built up that you can then export out, that you can use to issue, you can use to take into other databases. You can use these. The other thing to note about the shared parameters is, and it's spelled out in the specification, is that we are building these shared parameters with obviously, a single common point of these parameters, with obviously with their own GUIDs numbers. These, as it states in the specification, there's what has been identified as core data and non-core data. So essentially what we're moving towards is that the core data, the shared parameters list will be a holistic list, but there will be core data in there which will be actually in the Revit model. There might be other non-core data that's not in the Revit model, but that is part of the shared parameter list with its own GUID that can be used and utilised in other external databases, and tied back in and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, have a look at the specification if you're not familiar with it. There's a really good explanation of the process, and it's not a long document, so you don't have to read a phone book. It's actually it's quite good. So have a look at that. But basically, this is the schedule now in action. So as I said, you can load this family into your project. You can grab that template file that's got the IFM in it and copy across the schedule. The easiest way I find to copy schedules across, there are other ways, but the easiest way is to just copy it from the project browser. If you copy it to clipboard and then paste it into your project, it'll bring across the parameters. Obviously will be there in the family already, but it'll bring across those parameters and it'll bring across the order. Obviously you can insert the schedule by inserting a view, but I find that's the easiest way, and that's sort of the spelled out as a process that we would suggest to do it. But once that schedule's in there, you don't have to build it. It'll populate as you populate your model up. The one thing that you might have to obviously look at doing is, because obviously it's a mechanical equipment schedule in Revit, fans come under mechanical equipment, it will schedule out other mechanical equipment. You may then need to look, as per your project specifics, you may need to look at filtering out what you need to. And that's certainly, that's something we can discuss as well. Maybe there's filtering that we can add into this moving forward. But certainly that's no huge task to do. Okay, so back into the 3D view, just to show you. So you can see that this fan has got things like the clearance zones, okay, which is a part of the majority of our applicable content that's in the template. So we've got clearance visibility parameters to turn the clearance zone on and off. Okay. All right. So that's the beginnings of the generic content. That's something that we've been that's been requested. It's something that's been as part of the workflow for a while. We're now implementing it. The shared parameters are in there. They're now being implemented. So as we build up this library, that content will have these shared parameters preloaded in and all built in. I've got an example of another model here, which is again, been kindly donated as a bit of a working project model here. I wanted to try and actually show this in a model rather than, what we sometimes do in the past is just show simple examples and, not in a project environment, but this is in some actual live sort of project environments. So if we jump quickly back into the PDF just to tie this off, if we go to the last page, you'll notice on this axial fan specification that we've now got this the beginnings of this MCM schedule. Okay, so this is essentially the IFM schedule, but with the manufacturer, the commissioning, the parameters loaded in. So things like specific parameters, so things like model, manufacturer, product code, serial number. Hopefully you can read that okay. And also things like installation date and warranty start date. All of these BIM-MEPAUS parameters that are there and are now being utilised in there. So if I jump into that model over here, which is an example of a more construction-built model, and you can also see here these are predominantly BIM-MEPAUS components. If I jump into a fine level of detail, let's cancel that. Duct work and duct runs with the flanges, broken up into, split up into segments, constructible. Okay, so this is where we're getting to. Okay, and so if I click on that fan here, so this is an example of what might be a manufacturer-specific model. If I open up, well, firstly, just before I go into the schedule, if I come down to data again, so we've got the BIM-MEPAUS parameters, again, under data, so consistency. We've got the grouping there, but we can start to see these product code, serial number, specific parameters coming in, installation date, warranty start date. So this has been swapped out for a more manufacturer-specific fan, one that you might get spec'd, one that you get given for your requirements for the project. It now has this MCM schedule in there, and so that MCM schedule is in the project, and again, it's pre-built in. So you've got basically those parameters there. So that's basically that's really what I want to kind of show you. That process is live. It's happening. You can start to utilise that process now with the shared parameters that exist, and with the beginnings of that IFM content. So that was really what I wanted to drill in and show you. It's where we're going with it. It's where it's at. What I would also say as well is just quickly in terms of the template. Whenever a new version of the template is released, we do. Hopefully you're aware, we do release a what's new and the content as well with our newsletters. But we do release a what's new, 1 page or 2 pages, so you can reference that to see what is actually changed in the content. But certainly this is an exciting step forward in terms of getting the content and a workflow with the content going through the life of a project. Okay, so. I think that's it for the moment for the technical demo. I might invite Chris up now, and we can get started with the discussion.
Thanks, Brendan. That's how to shorten up the customer requests is go along on the technical. Pleasure to be back here. I'd like to thank A2K and BIM-MEPAUS for inviting me. Always a treat. Conversation and the presentations. There's not a lot of time, but as we all know, you can have a standard in the industry where we try to help users. The best intent really isn't going to help anyone unless the users really use it. And I think a lot of times, obviously, for us, and we look at it, is content good? Is our templates useful? It's very important that it fits into users' workflows. Does the distribution work? Again, we distribute cloud-based products every day, but is it easy to use? Is it something that you can port across your organization? So some of the questions I was asked to give a few questions, maybe from probing from the outside. So your input is very valuable here, and certainly don't be shy. You know, the first thing is that for the standards, how do you see the distribution, how the content and templates are distributed through the cloud? Is it acceptable? Is it good? Are there things you'd rather see?
Any questions or suggestions?
It means it's great.
Any comments?
I just noticed that there you have systems serve some serve locations. Any reason why you've added further parameters to them rather than to use Revit's native of the system names or spaces and zones within Revit? Because it seems like a double up on data rather than using what's already existing.
It's a good question. So we've definitely had that in mind, and there certainly are, in terms of the scheduling, if you look through the specification, particularly in the axial fan, there's parameters in there that have not been created as shared parameters. We're using we're using the Revit parameters. In terms of things like this system served and area served, we've added those in just as part of the what was being scoped as being what should be required as this. So things like zone served and system served, being able to split them up. Systems, for example, in Revit don't always, not always that flexible, able to be broken up into zones or to be able to label them that well. So that's the idea behind that. But look, that's certainly something that is open for discussion. We have definitely been aware that there are parameters that we need to create, so we didn't. People like model manufacturer, that's not a set, that's not a brand shared parameter, it's the Revit parameter, and others. So, but yeah, look, it's a good comment. It's something that we can look at further. You know, if it comes to a point where there's certain parameters like that might need to be looked at, then we can do that. But at the moment, I think at least understand. I guess in short, we have paid attention and we've tried not to duplicate parameters that already exist, but yeah. Is that hopefully that answers the question?
And is there anyone in the audience that you know, completes projects without using the standard? And if you were, why do you do that? That's good. That's right. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to describe how the standard helps deliver projects in your office, or how you may use it towards success?
Sorry, Steve from BIM Consulting. I was just wondering, was there a workshop that kind of identified what these parameters actually were? What was there a larger list that was kind of narrowed down to an identifiable list? I guess it's more a question to the content creators, Brendan. And also, was there a what was the conscious decision to create these parameters as instance-based and not type-based?
Okay, yes, that's a good question. So in terms of the first point, so yes, there were meetings that went that occurred to throw around what the parameters the final list is going to be. It's not finished. As I said, there will be more to come. There's more that are required. So we will be releasing updates to the shared parameter file, just like we release updates to the template file itself. And I won't speak for the initiative on whole, but the BIM-MEPAUS initiative and the group, the core user group, certainly had the say in the list of parameters, and the parameters that have now arrived are industry recognised parameters. So yes, there was meetings that went around. As I said, there'll be more to come. We know that we need to add more. And so there will be needs to come potentially in the future about those parameters. And so, yeah, Warwick might want to mention, might want to discuss that topic as well.
So just in terms of the shared parameters, every single family that we put up is an industry work group. Typically that's about 3-4 metres. So the fan says about the fourth revision of that specification. So what the original thing was that we looked at all the parameters that were actually needed to specify a component, then actually get it scheduled for procurement, because the contractors actually end up scheduling a lot more information, and then the manufacturers actually provided more information. And so every single component that we've done, whether it's chillers, it's fans, it's pumps, we've got a couple of work groups going at 9 months on dampers, which has been a really great one. Also had work groups on installation schedules, we've got work groups going on ductwork. All those families involve a consultation process. I suppose the thing that we've done also is we've consulted a lot of the consultants to try and find out whether there was actually a sort of an industry approach to shared parameters. And if I'm being really honest, no, there's some consultants who've done a lot, but they've probably only taken that so far. There's others, we'll see lots and lots of different thinking, and I suppose what we've done is try and take the best thinking and get it into a single schedule. So all the shared parameters that you see, there is a structure to them. So, and there's a discipline to the way that we've actually made them. And we're not saying that every shared parameter has to be a model. It could be in an SQL database, which Bill was talking about a lot today. But if you're going to name something, what we're hoping is if it's anything to do with a pan, that you'll go to that specification to use that shared parameter. And there shouldn't be a parameter that you need to get that fan installed, commissioned and maintained that isn't somewhere in that specification. It may not be in the IFM and it may not be in the manufacturer certified model, but there is a known territory.
It might not be using it, but it's able to be used. That's another point as well. I'm sure most of you are aware that it actually took, it took some time to actually release the shared parameter file. It wasn't just a spare of the moment thing. It actually went through that process, and we took a lot of time, which you're aware, to actually to release the file. So a lot of work and QA and whatnot went into it. So it wasn't just an ad hoc spare of the moment thing. So that was coming to that side. So yeah, we had a lot of input and continue to have some. And one other thing that I didn't mention in my talk as well, and Warwick mentioned it in terms of the other content that's being developed. We've got some great work going on at the moment. We've got some great work going on at the moment with building up the other families as Warwick mentioned, like flight anti-air terminals. So this library is going to library is going to grow pretty quickly, and it's going to then feed into the manufacturer specific content. And go up. So in the next 6 months, you should see that process happening.
And would anyone like to share, I mean, obviously whenever we're building content around the world and there's a shortage, there's never enough content. But in using the standard, anyone want to share like maybe what percentage that this standard helps on content creation? How much do you still have to build? That's always a good input for us, for those. I mean, obviously, manufacturers, we build content as fast as they'll let us build, but definitely, I'm sure these guys would be of interest to know how, there's always going to be more, but how does it suffice today?
Hi, I'm Simon Gibbs from WSP. Just with regards to the shared parameters, there's quite a few different groups that have developed parameters parameters over time. You've got the Revit content style guide and ANSYS and now BIM-MEPAUS parameters. Trying to consolidate them all is actually quite a hard task, and you've got to cherry pick from one set and then another set. It would be good to have a consolidated shared parameters file that's useful, and are there plans to consolidate more consistently with the ANSYS standards in the future?
Yeah, well, I can answer that. Yes, and we did. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but it actually is consolidated. The BIM-MEPAUS shared parameters that we've created are actually consolidated with the ANSYS, the applicable ANSYS shared parameters. And by that I mean we have used the same GUID numbers. That is spelled out. So if you download the shared parameter file, there's a PDF document that comes along with it that explains where they come from, how it was created. And it goes into bit details there. So we consciously did that. We were exactly the same thing when we set out to create the parameters. We basically said exactly the same thing. We said we don't want to just create another set of parameters that is going to be another duplicate set of parameters out there, in the industry that's going to clash. So what we in testing out what we decided to do was test out whether we could create, so if there was a BIM-MEPAUS parameter that was specified to be made and it already existed as an applicable or a parameter that was for the same purpose in the ANSYS, and we also looked at Autodesk Seek as well. Not Autodesk Seek, parameters, as well as it. So if there was a parameter that already existed, we used the GUID, we just gave it the BIM-MEPAUS name. And so just further that, just to explain that a bit further, you might be thinking, well, how does that kind of work? We tested it and we got some industry feedback, and we got some advice from power users and things like and people like that. If you have got basically how it would then work, if you've got I imagine you've got projects where you're using ANSYS parameters. Yeah. So if you've got a project that has got ANSYS or a template that's got ANSYS parameters in it, and if you then load in the BIM-MEPAUS parameters, what those BIM-MEPAUS parameters that have the same GUID will override the ANSYS ones. There won't be a duplicate, and it'll take on the new name. So yeah, in short, yes, we were conscious of that, and we didn't want to duplicate parameters that were already out there. So hopefully that answers it. But if you have a look at the document, there's an explanation of the history of how it kind of came about.
We probably could speak about 3 days on the shared parameter issue globally, so it is definitely frustrating, and there's no magic bullet for that. Is there anything that you would like to see added or improved? Do you use the standard and just something that you'd say, yeah, this would really help if it were added to what you're trying to produce?
Chris, do they have where you've got the Omni class codes or the code, have you got all that linked in there?
On Omni class, yeah. So if you look at the specifications, the Omni class, the BIM-MEPAUS specifications, the Omni class number is certainly included. It is there as part of the schedule. Even Warwick might want to talk on this a bit further in terms of standards, but yeah, on Omni class, there's other standards and parameters for use for other standards and tagging of other standards that have been included. So to answer your question, yes, we will consciously, as we create the content, we will consciously, as I'm sure you're aware, the Omni class number, as an example, is a parameter that's in the family, and then as a Revit parameter, as a non-user, as a system parameter. And that will then come into the project. So yes, as we build the content, we will consciously include the Omni class number, and it will be included in the schedules.
Right. And probably just back to Chris, you asked a lot of questions about the standards and that. A lot of the projects we're on are locked in at least 14, for instance. So we haven't had the luxury of using 16 and some of these other newer features. So it's probably the crowd's a bit quiet.
Yeah, 2016 you guys are using to take advantage of the new functionality and shared parameters. So yeah, definitely on that side, I could see not have tested it yet. But I think more on the overall scope, what might be missing. I mean, definitely all have quite a luxury having this national standard, because certainly globally, obviously in the U.S. we wouldn't have that because we don't agree across the board. And so it wouldn't happen. But a lot of countries that we do work in, I mean, the markets are misguided and there's a lot of misinformation. So, I mean, I think here the impressive part is that, in creating the standard, I understand throughout the years there were user groups, and I think a lot of feedback from the community was put into the standard, and also the time of time fabrication of Revit and the extensive work that's been done by BIM-MEPAUS is fantastic. And if you're anywhere else in the globe, you do not have the luxury. You're pretty much spinning. So I think this is very impressive what's been done here. So a lot of these questions were my curiosity, because we do products and services, and it's always important for the users. And since there aren't many that have standards overall, it's always of interest to hear what the Australian market has to say. So I don't think there's any more questions. We're good. How are we on time?
Okay, I'll start. I'm going to try and pop some more. Sure. Quick discussion. Just in regards to, there's a question.
Yeah, Chris Penn, HYLC. I'd just like to ask a question. Does everybody here know what the cost of the subscription is for this BIM-MEPAUS template? Can you confirm to the audience? Because I go around the country and every time I talk to a consultant, to a contractor, it's always too expensive, or they don't know what the cost is. So it'd be good if you could just confirm what that subscription is to Discipline.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Very obvious and good question. So the cost of a subscription, there's an AMCA member discounted price, which is $875, and that's a 12-month subscription. So that gives you access to everything you've seen on the website, all the manufacturer's content, templates, shared parameters, and obviously everything that gets added to that during the year.
Per company, per user?
Either way you look at it. So it's not overly policed. So you might have an office of 10 people, you might have one subscription, and that person manages the content, the libraries, or the templates that have been used on projects. So you've only paid $875 and the whole office uses it. That's fine. So
I think that's where the confusion is.
Yeah, good point. And the non-member discount is, I think it's $12.75 if my memory's right. So if you're not an AMCA member, it's I think it's $1,275 or $95. Yeah. So that's for the whole year for everything. So I hope people would view that as quite reasonable.
And I think, the reality is about 2 pieces of content cost that, so definitely a bargain.
G'day, I'm Shano from Jones Nicholson. We've actually been using the template as well. We actually started to see what BIM-MEPAUS was actually doing in just the PDF documents that you'd actually sent me. And we'd actually, before we even got the template, we started to basically copy what was in those PDFs into our current template. Since then we have gotten your template, and it has actually made us a lot more productive, because as many of you know, Revit does get pretty glitchy with ductwork and fittings, and there's not a great variety of those fittings, and just the customization of those fittings and the ability to control them, like the radiuses and turning the flanges off, has just been saving so much time on our end, really, to spit jobs out to get duct run done, rather than spending 4 hours just trying to sort out a dodgy piece of ductwork for it to just work straight away with the template and those families. Even the colour stuff as well from clients. We've had so many good positive feedback from the colour side of things. From the template just kind of being the outline colours have changed, we've kind of gone the opposite direction and filled in all of our ductwork and left the ductwork black and the outlines black and white, and it's just improved things on all levels to the Navisworks side, we've run those same colours through to the Navisworks side, so anytime that someone looks at a supply duct, they know it's blue. When they look in Revit, it's exactly the same colour, and everyone can follow along a lot easier and just know what they're looking at all times. And yeah, just embracing colour, because we've been in a black and white world for 30, 40 years. So it's been great, and keep up the good work with the generic models as well, because they'll be really handy for us.
Tremendous, great, thank you.
No worries.
It's good to get that validation that we're on the right path with a few things, but it is constant work in progress. So we really rely on your input and your participation in this ongoing. So what we've got today is not complete and it's not perfect. So we're after your input on where we can exceed. Two tenants. Well, two of the tenants underlying BIM-MEPAUS was to gain the benefits of standardisation as an industry, so we have a standard that helps us all interpret the information we're being given when we're working with a BIM process and models are getting passed around. So that can offer a lot of efficiencies for us if we get standardisation. And then obviously it's sharing the workload and effort across as an industry, instead of each of us doing the same work, each of us having the same pain and struggle with those fittings, trying to get them working. Let's get it right once and share it. So that's, that really highlights that. That's great.
Rush from BSA. You mentioned your fabricatable parts in the template. Can you just explain so everyone's aware of the actual process of how you go about fabricating from those parts?
Well, I could do that, but it might be worth, because a lot of us are going to be going through that whole process in their streams tomorrow. So it's probably worth attending that. And they can show that there's going to be some good stuff in there. But basically, in short, I guess, someone answer the question. In 2016, you've got the ITM database, the ITM parts from the fabrication software, can now be utilised in Revit 2016.
That's not formally in part of the template.
Okay, good question. So where we stand at the moment is, and we actually had a good discussion about this yesterday. So yes, there is some work to be done there in terms of now how that integration happens and how we
more
bring it.
interested in the workflow pre-2016.
Yes. Yeah.
I know there's a number of different ways about going about it, but I was just wondering what your initial views are on how it should be done, just so that people are aware of the process.
Yes. Yeah.
Instead of saying it's a fabricated part, which it actually is not.
Sure. Look, we're going to consciously work now. Now that the functionality is there with the ITM parts, the BIM-MEPAUS template will definitely be connected to that. So we're going to look to. There's a few paths that we could obviously go, and obviously this is going to depend on where it comes from the software. And you're going to say that some of those questions may be answered tomorrow, or at least the direction shown tomorrow during the audit presentation. But certainly we will be looking to have an ITM library as part of the BIM-MEPAUS template. So that is definitely the direction that we're going. In the meantime, we'll still have the Revit content is still going to be required. In the RFA families, the fitting is still going to be required, certainly in the short term, certainly for the web. And as this integration evolves, then hopefully that kind of goes. I don't want to answer your question, but we will be looking to connect to it and to have a BIM-MEPAUS representation of the fabrication parts as they evolve. Does that sort of answer the question? No.
Sounds like we're dodging that one, doesn't it? No, we did debate about, we could have easily taken 60 minutes today to start that subject.
Yeah.
And that's a very good question, Rush, because I think it's on everyone's mind. We hope all of this are going to do a tremendous job of their presentation tomorrow, which I'm sure they will. So that'll sort of get a lot of discussion going around that subject as well. And maybe we could do more in the near future to address that as well. Yeah, it's good point.
Maybe you can give me over here.
less than a 90-minute to what might be a stupid question, but when I spoke this morning, part of what I hear from our mechanical contractors is that fabrication, and they're using AutoCAD MEP primarily, and sort of. So I'm trying to figure out at what point, and maybe my fellow American can help answer from his perspective, might I want to change my position in how I mandate or not Revit as a deliverable model when I'm being, well, the understanding right now, it's a fabrication issue. These guys live, eat, and breathe the AutoCAD MEP, and to ask them to do anything else is causing them more work. So what's my time frame before we think the industry may change to full Revit?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And the answer is, I mean, in the U.S., obviously, in a nutshell, the difference in the Australian market and the goals here is that you're taking Revit and you're producing a constructible model. You're collision detecting, you're getting to the end, and then you're going to fab after that point. In the U.S., we couldn't do that due to the time frame. So if we were asked to go into CAD MEP and do install drawings, we only get 3 days after sign off. So that would never work. So on some jobs that we're doing where we're asked to integrate data, the key is that CAD MEP, for instance, mechanical, in our opinion, there is no choice. And we fabricate, we're the only company in the United States that fabricates all 3 disciplines every day. So we actually do that. And when you get into electrical and plumbing, you have a choice. Some will do Revit, some will do CAD MEP. And again, for you as an owner, and what we tell the owners is you cannot be disruptive. Sure, do we want to mandate a Revit model at the end? But it's not reality, right? Because then they're not going to be able to do their job. But again, we're working on some very large projects where we've done the execution and life cycle execution, and this is the overall what we conclude. In the United States, the design model has to be more design assist, because in order for you as the owner to get a complete what we call federated model, and you do have to come in a single platform. I mean, if an owner has a bunch of CAD MEP and a bunch of Revit, there's not a whole lot you truly can do without a federated model. So the key is that have the design model closer to construction, and that's not an easy task. But if in the life cycle you're going to do better collision detection and design assist, what we're trying to do is match, not perfect, the constructible model is still not going to match what contractors do, but you're closer in order to make the federated model less work, right? Because if you got all those files and they say, hey, it's going to cost $250,000 to put it all together, you go, I mean, why? I just did this whole process. So I think the answer is that, for instance, mechanical, I don't see anytime soon not using the CAD MEP product. And I think even your question, right? The reality is we build all over the world CAD MEP and Revit. And the thing is, as we attempt in 2016 with ITM, it's still more a data pass, because it's going to be a mesh in Revit. So there's not going to be some silver bullet that we're going across and next week. It's not going to happen. But we're on the path, and Autodesk is on the path to do that. But I think you have to look at the realities. And again, here, that's so different around the world, is that this time spent to truly try to create a constructible model doesn't happen anywhere else. We talk it. In the U.S., we talk constructible models, but they're not. And that's because the effort isn't, it's divergent at that point, design and CAD MEP, right? You might ask a lot of people about CAD MEP and design in the U.S., and they don't know what we're talking about. But that's the reality. Does that make sense? As in, you don't want to mandate Revit if it's going to handcuff where they have to draw it twice or model twice. And I think the reality is using a single platform isn't here for a little while.
Yeah, our approach is that a federated model is not defined as a common platform. We consume AutoCAD MEP and Revit models, and that's our as-built FM federated model. And we take that to be the most accurate rendering of how the building was built. And if that's also what the subs use to do their fabrication, it's a win-win. As long as it's accurate, I really don't care. Because as you saw before, I'm using other tools to view that federated model. I don't really care the platform. And part of why I'm asking the question, there's a lot of people, like peers, people I work with, who know less about the answer to this question. And they'll go see a presentation on Revit is able to do this, and they come back and go, why aren't you doing Revit?
It makes you breakfast, everything.
Practical.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but the guy just said.
yes, no, misinformation in this business is really what kills it half the time. But I think what we look to owners, and why I say federated model, is that, you know, we look, in technology, we're not looking at today. I mean, we look 3 years from now, 4 years from now. The responsibility of a federated model and a platform, even if you didn't use it today, the key is that all products are going to bank on that, right? I mean, because the only way that you can take all platforms is in a viewer, right? But at the end of the day, bi-directional the future, or tagging your asset from a unique identifier to your CMMS or different things requires one platform. I mean, and you Revit in the case is only because mostly we deal with 80-90% market share. Sure, we do Bentley and different things, but it's a small percentage. So you're right. Today, it may not be important, but the reason we fight hard to try to figure out what tools to use and bring it back is that not exactly for today, but we're involved all over with different products that haven't hit the market. All of them bank on Revit model, a lot of them. And so we just want the owner to take advantage later. It may not be a today thing, but for us, that's why we go down that federated model, is for added value that you can get down. And even gaming engines and, Autodesk announced that I think Stingray, given a name, it's already been out, but, there's just a ton of things from the model that you think outside the box, like using that model for training, or looking at, if you can see all your facilities around the world, to go look at a facility that you're not at, or someone can see it in Boston, to look in Brazil, right? So there's just a lot of things out there, value you can get from a model, and you can't get it unless it's single platform. That's the unfortunate part. So that's why we tackle it. But you're exactly right. Today, obviously you can see lots of propaganda, but you're right. The products, you split the data, and most of them, the most you can do is view, but there's no tie to the model, and that's what we look at. That's all, it's just like energy. There's lots of great things, but to tell you the truth, when we're doing energy analysis, there aren't that many ties to BIM to truly take that model, other than spaces and some things like that. That's our goal, but you're right. There's no magic to that.
I think we might be running close to our time.
Imagine that.
Oh, we've got just pass into your MT to keep going.
We can't do that. But it's good. This discussion is it's a shame 40 minutes passes so it passes by so quickly. But we want this discussion to keep going. And I'll just point out on our website, on the BIM-MEPAUS.com.au website, there's a development request there. So that actually goes to a whole group of people. It doesn't just end up in one person's email inbox. It actually goes to a whole group, so it makes sure that we are addressing any requests that come through. And then obviously we'll be in touch to get further clarification and work together. But we want this discussion to keep going beyond today's few minutes together. So, but thanks everyone for all of your input, and for all that you've invested in this initiative over the last few years as well. So you've brought all this to reality. We've all done it collaboratively together as a group, so thank you very much. Thank you.